Following up on my main channel segment from over at timcast.net, check it out if you haven't, I wanted to dig into this story about Trump supporters pumping thousands of dollars into AOC's primary opponent's coffers. Some people would argue this is simply Trump trying to disrupt the Democrats and cause problems. I think this is actually a sign of where the political mindset of Americans really is. Ocasio-Cortez is running in a primary against several opponents. Her most notable is a woman named Michelle Caruso Cabrera, who regular old moderate Democrat. She's written a book where she comes off fairly moderate. She's actually stated, I think they bring this up, she's refusing to raise taxes during an economic crisis, which is fairly honest. I mean, how many Democrats are going to straight up say, no, we can't do this? Michelle Caruso Cabrera, she lives in the area and regular moderate. AOC, progressive, calling for defunding the police. So why would Trump supporters donate to defeat AOC? For one, I think they have interests and assets in New York City, and they don't like what AOC represents or what she's doing. And if you get rid of the police, those assets are worthless. But let's be honest. AOC is a celebrity candidate. A lot of people in this country want real moderate politics. I'd love to have a real debate over policy with a Republican and a Democrat and actually talk about issues, but we're not doing that anymore. Right now, the debates are all based around, are you a civil libertarian who believes in free thought and free expression, or some weird cultist who wants no police, I guess. Well, let's read this story. We'll talk about what's going on. Fox News says, top donors to President Trump are also pumping thousands of dollars into the campaign, the campaign kitty of the Democratic primary rival to Rep. AOC, Michelle Caruso Cabrera. Records show broadcaster Stanley Hubbard, who contributed $175,000 to the pro-Trump Great America PAC, contributed the maximum $5,600 to Caruso Cabrera, according to OpenSecrets.org, and filings with the Federal Elections Commission. Cowboy venture capitalist Darren Blanton, who has given $41,000 to pro-Trump campaign entities, also donated $5,600 to Caruso Cabrera. Now, I'll point out, I looked these here gentlemen up. I believe Stanley Hubbard lives in St. Paul, and I believe Darren Blanton is in Dallas. That's just from a cursory Google search. I could be wrong about this, but they clearly don't live in New York. I'm not a big fan of people outside of these congressional districts donating to politicians inside these congressional districts because, well, they're supposed to represent the district, but face it, this is not how politics works right now. And I've personally donated to some Democrats from districts outside of my own. Now, that was a while ago, mind you, and I'm never going to do that again. Straight up, not going to happen. And that even goes, I did donate to Michelle Caruso Cabrera because I did a segment about her talking about how she's very, very reasonable and rational. And that's something we need in the Democratic Party. And so I did donate, and I'm now looking at the Democratic Party as fully tainted. For a while, I was hoping that by supporting people like Michelle Caruso Cabrera, who I will still say I do want her to win. I do hope she wins. But this is the last for me. That's the point I'm making. I donated to her. I want to see her win. Consider this the last, farewell to the Democratic Party for me, because when the moderate Democrats campaigned on reasonable issues and then won, they went straight for impeachment. So I'm not confident we're going to get something good out of any of these Democrats. And to be fair, while I do think it's better to have Michelle Caruso Cabrera than AOC, Michelle Caruso Cabrera has, as far as I can tell, just wholly supported Nancy Pelosi, which I'm not a fan of either. But based on who Michelle Caruso Cabrera is and what she's written in the past, I do think that she is one of the more moderate Democrats we've seen out of any jurisdiction. And I think she would be a lot better for her district and our country. So take it for what it is. The party as a whole is what you got to pay attention to. But I believe that the reason these people are probably donating to her, these Trump supporters, is because, I mean, listen, man, we all got to work out of New York City. We are a nation that relies on a good functioning good functioning government, period, be it local or otherwise. I mean, it makes sense if you want Los Angeles to run smoothly. It makes sense if you want New York to, because it affects all of us. These guys clearly saw a high-profile politician in AOC who is negatively impacting political discourse in this country. They now have to make a choice. Are they going to be involved or not? Well, they clearly decided to get involved. I believe the congressional race, the primary between Caruso Cabrera and AOC, is the most important congressional race in this country. Maybe even the most important election for the time being. I think now, as we get into November, Trump's reelection is going to be the most important. But this certainly is one of the most important, maybe second to Trump come November, because AOC is the face of the woke, progressive, nonsense celebrity breakdown. These people in this ideology, they don't actually want anything. I mean, they claim to want things, but all they really want is to spread their ideology. That is like things being washed over and erased with chaos. That would be the breakdown of the system. I mean, AOC has recently just backed defunding the police. She's called for New York City to slash $1 billion from NYPD's $6 billion budget in the wake of George Floyd's death. Now, listen, I want to go back and read about these Trump supporters. I think it's fair to say we can remove some funding from these police departments. We can get rid of some of, a lot of unnecessary things. But what you got to understand about these budgets, people have said, oh, but they have tanks and they have all these things. And it's like, yeah, a lot of those come from grants from the governments to repurpose what was already bought and paid for. You see what I'm saying? I don't think a lot of these police departments should have APCs, mind you. And some actually have tanks. Now, I mean that really. Like, I've always been critical of the activists saying they have tanks when they show an APC. But no, I mean like legit tanks with treads and like 50 cal mounted machine guns, whatever. So yeah, maybe police departments don't need that. But AOC is recently been trying to move over to the mainstream, I think, to maintain her job. But she really does represent the face of the woke far left Democrats who have been taking over. That's why people want her to lose. It's symbolic victory as much as it is, policy victory. They say financier Nelson Patz, who held a lavish fundraiser at his Palm Beach home earlier this year to help raise $10 million for Trump and the RNC, kicked in $5,600 to Caruso Cabrera's campaign. Venture capitalist Walter Buckley, who donated $1 million to the pro-Trump Rebuild America not super PAC, also gave in a maximum contribution to MCC. AOC has been at odds with Wall Street and big business, symbolized by her opposition to a scuttled plan for Amazon to reopen a campus headquarters along the Queens waterfront. Caruso Cabrera is a former veteran business journalist and CNBC anchor. They say Caruso Cabrera is running as a moderate, pro-business Democrat alternative to Ocasio Cortez in the 14th Congressional District that takes place in a bunch of New York neighborhoods. I'm not going to read them. Caruso Cabrera supported the aborted Amazon headquarters and criticized AOC for helping to scuttle it. Asked about the donations from Trump backers, Caruso Cabrera spokesman Hank Scheinkopf said, AOC's divisive behavior has created the national coalition supporting MCC. AOC continues to work against our presumptive presidential nominee, Joe Biden. AOC prefers to be with Donald Trump 13.7% of the time. Her vote on SALT was in lockstep with the president, which hurts NY. He was referring to AOC's vote against a House bill to repeal the law that limits state and local tax deductions on federal income tax returns, which mainly benefits wealthier home-owning taxpayers, and her voting record. Now, I want to stop here. I think Michelle Caruso Cabrera missed an opportunity in messaging. I don't think you want to highlight that Trump supporters are donating to you and then come out and just straight up say, and AOC is in alignment with Trump. That's kind of a silly thing to say. What needs to be said is that Ocasio-Cortez represents the vapid celebrity leftist internet culture. AOC is much less a politician and much more an influencer. We have seen influencer culture. We have seen the woman at the Black Lives Matter protest step onto the road and hold up a sign. That's what Ocasio-Cortez is. She is a say-anything Democrat. She got elected because she was some progressive that barely won any votes. And now she's just desperate to win. New York, as well as the rest of this country, does not want to see a fake celebrity candidate who just postures and grandstands. They want to see someone who can bring a real argument to the table. And even though Michelle Caruso Cabrera, this is what she could have said, even though she opposes Donald Trump, even Trump supporters recognize the importance of a healthy debate with a real Democrat who wants to discuss real policies to find the right solution. AOC does not bring that to the table. That's my view. That's why I think Michelle Caruso Cabrera is more important and better than AOC. Because AOC is the kind of politician who stands there and does a selfie with duck face, okay? Not always, I get it. AOC has done some things I think are good. But for the most part, she just wants to fluff that follower count and maintain this salaried position. Michelle Caruso Cabrera is not a grandstanding famous individual. Sure, she was on TV, but now she's running for office. She could have stayed on TV if she wanted that. Instead, she's talking about things like not raising taxes. Look at this. When asked to raise taxes on the wealthy, AOC said yes, as did Badran Khan. Caruso Cabrera said she opposed raising taxes at all during the fiscal crisis resulting from the coronavirus pandemic. Think about that. What Democrat is willing to say, I won't raise taxes on the rich? That's progressive. That would collapse a progressive campaign. Michelle Caruso Cabrera was honest. No, we can't do this. We're in a financial crisis. What are you nuts? We got to get the money circulating again. I respect that. I don't completely agree with Michelle Caruso Cabrera supporting Nancy Pelosi or whatever. But I'll tell you this, whether you're a progressive, the progressives know, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, I think regular Americans recognize having a real debate on policy is important for a healthy nation. So you can disagree with Caruso Cabrera, and that's exactly why I think the Trump backers are actually donating to her. AOC is the perfect PR campaign for Trump. He paints the left and Democrats as nuts. Wouldn't they want AOC to win? Yeah, if they want Trump to win. But if they actually just want real debate and a return to normalcy, they would support a normal Democrat to get rid of the celebrity, individual desperate for fame. That's why I think it's happening. But you can tell me what you think in the comments. I'll leave it there. Stick around. The next segment's coming up the next segment will be just a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.